Saturday at Santa Anita Park marks the inaugural California Crown. It's an exciting day in racing with our sister track here. Ron Nicoletti and Samantha Perry here from Gulfstream Park as we're going to take a look at the All Stakes Pick 5, Ron.
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's got some really heavy heads later on in the sequence, so we'll see how it plays out. As you mentioned, $1, so you can get in and make some serious money today.
Yeah, you can. It's a 15% takeout that's so player friendly, and it starts in race number 5 and All Stakes, and this is the Unzip Me Stakes presented by the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance. 6.5 furlongs. It is down the downhill course and a very exciting race of 3-year-olds, Ron.
Yeah, I went with a horse I'm familiar with, and that's the number 11, Tupi. His debut locally for Graham Motion after a solid sprint campaign. What I liked about this was he went to 3 different tracks and ran well, and I remember his race recently, in Saratoga. I just thought this horse, maybe I'll get a little bit of a price. I sort of looked for true sprinters in this race. A lot of horse turning back in distance.
Yeah, and I really like that outside post, too, for the downhill course. And with the Flavian Pratt aboard, who he actually did ride this horse back at Keeneland last year, but he's back aboard here today. And I feel like Graham Motion does a good job when he ships in.
Yeah. You always got to look at Graham. I threw in Zona Verde. It's cutting back to 6.5 furlongs. Had some trouble in that 9 furlong. Del Mar Oaks. It's Phil D'Amato, J.J. Hernandez. Thought that was good. Interesting horse in here that I didn't use, and I might go back. I just noticed that number 8 Sea Dancer is a Hafter Johannes, who's going to be the big favorite, later on in the card. So very interesting way to start the pick 5.
We're skipping ahead to race number 7. That's the second leg in this $1 minimum all stakes pick 5. It is the John Henry Turf Championship presented by First Bet. 1.25 miles on the grass, a grade 2 event. What a competitive race, Ron.
Yeah, I ended up going with the number 9 Gold Phoenix. The average spread is a multiple grade 2 winner this year. He stretches out to the 1.25 miles. He rallied to win the Del Mar handicap at 11 furlongs. It's Phil D'Amato who's got many entries in this California Crown. He has 3 entered in this race. He wins good consecutive races, 22%.
Yeah, and this is an interesting race because they're all coming out of that Del Mar handicap where I felt like what a gutsy ride up the rail by Kyle Frey to get the win for this specific grade 2 that he's coming out of. Now, what do you do with the horses that are coming out of that race, like Dicey Mochara, Balankov? What do you do with those?
Balankov is the other one from Phil D'Amato in this race. He turned back. He's trying to turn the tables on the stable. He was only a neck behind him last time out, but who was on the lead? The 5 Dicey Mochara. As you said, this one was a neck from stealing the whole thing.
It was a very close race, and I like the fact that Flavian Pratt gets aboard here today as well. Another rider, when he is in town at Santa Anita, always rides for the top connections. Now, race number 8, it is the California Crown Eddie D Stakes. It's a grade 2 presented by FanDuel. 6.5 furlongs on that downhill course. And I've got a single here, Ron, but I'm interested to see what you think.
Oh, I went with King of Gosford from Phil D'Amato. If you look at this horse, he's 3 for 3 on the Santa Anita turf, so he's perfect. And he's also 2 for 2 at the distance. So I'm going to play the percentages with that. And I know we talked a little earlier. You really like a horse in this race.
I do. King of Gosford, he's obviously the local now horse, but facing older, and that can be tough. Big Invasion for me. This is one of the shippers for Christophe Clement. Flavian Pratt gets aboard here. This horse has gone through some really tough rides in the past, and he's finally starting to get the right situations and getting set up in the right way. I already said I love the outside post, Ron, for these types of races down the hill, and this distance should be perfect.
And, I just want to mention real quick the number 2 First Piece. 9 for 10 in the money on the Santa Anita turf and 5 for 5 in the money at the distance. I'm going to play those percentages somewhere on my ticket.
You should for sure. Race number 9, it is the Grade 1 California Crown presented by Sir Davis American Whiskey. 1.8 miles on the main track. We've got 3 Bob Baffert runners. Did you opt for a Baffert or go somewhere else?
I went with Senor Buscador, stretching out to the 9 furlongs after returning from Adan and finishing, I thought, a screw-tightening 4th in the 7 furlong Pat O'Brien. He shook off. You remember the Pegasus World Cup.
Oh,
he can't,
yes.
He had trouble at the start. He almost beat National Treasure, who I believe is going to be the big favorite in there. And I think the race sets up perfect for him. There's so much speed in here. I think he sits the trip. National Treasure, I'm not convinced that he can get 9 furlongs. I don't think it's his best distance.
It might not be his best, and I agree, but I do think that he's just the now horse and the one that has just been specifically pointed for a race like this. I'm excited to see these two winner and runner-up from the Pegasus World Cup this year match off again. And just riding off of what you said about Senior Buscador, I like how they gave him a tune-up race for this spot here.
And you got to mention Muth in here, the number 5. He's from, of course, from the Bob Baffert juggernaut. He won the Grade 1 Arkansas Derby at the distance. He's going for, his 4th consecutive win. He's a sophomore, going to try older horses for the first time, but he's so good right now.
He is, and he's getting thrown into the deep end here because his stablemate, National Treasure, and even Newgate, for that matter, are two very competitive runners. But I do think that Muth is a horse that we're going to see a great 4-year-old campaign from. I just wonder how he'll handle taking on these horses now. What do you do with Subsanador, who is another horse that he's coming out of a big win at Monmouth?
Yeah, he can run very well in there. That's what makes this race so intriguing. You got to make that decision. Do you go with the horse like National Treasure, or do you search around and try and beat him?
Yeah, I'm just going to go with National Treasure in this spot here. Flavian Pratt's coming to ride. I just am going to mark off the Whitney race because I just don't think it seemed like his wheels were spinning in the mud there at Saratoga.
So we'll see how that plays out. I'm excited to watch that race.
Yeah, it'd be very exciting, the inaugural California Crown. Now, race number 10, it's the City of Hope Mile, a mile on the turf course. It is a Grade 2 event, and what a competitive group of 3-year-olds and up.
Well, here's my single in here.
All right.
On the day, and it's the number 3, Johannes, who's 5 for 5 on the Santa Anita turf and a perfect 3 for 3 at the distance. It's the old horse for course angle. I think this horse is going to run exceptionally well. Tries and supers, I might use Tricari, somewhere on the bottom. I just think he's been running well. He's going to face older horses for the first time. But for me, the day is all about Johannes.
It's a tough horse to beat here, and I know that this will be a single on a lot of people's tickets, coming off of 3 wins, all graded stakes races. The race clearly just runs through this runner. If you were going to think of a big setup, a big upset in a race like this, who would you go with?
Maybe the 8 horse in here from Phil D'Amato was game second in the 1 mile Grade 2 Del Mar Mile. I don't know how big of a price he's going to be, because if you look down, there's a certain jockey riding. Flavian Pratt has just been on fire this year, especially in graded stakes races.
Yeah, he has indeed. He set a record at Saratoga over the summer in graded stakes wins. So exciting to get him in California for the California Crown. That is an all-stakes pick 5. How much does your ticket shape out to be?
Mine's going to be $96 with that single in the last race.
And mine is $108 for this 15% low takeout, $1 minimum. All stakes pick 5 for the inaugural California Crown at Santa Anita Park.